St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, STLtoday.com, KTRS contributor. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, McGraw. I've got an important question.
Yes.
Will Cardinal fans be hate watching the Cubs series?
I don't think so. I think if you really want to get under Cubs fan skins, you root for the Cubs and say, we've had so much success. We want you guys to feel what we have felt for the last century.
I mean, if I were the greatest Cardinal fan ever, what I'd be doing is tracking down Bartman and paying him whatever it takes to pay him to show up at, Game 6 or Game 7. That's what I would do. Just, make sure Bartman gets there.
Well, that's why, Tony Messenger, that's why no one likes you. All right, Tony Messenger, make sense of this Mayor Slay, Sam Dotson story where we all thought they were best buddies. It turns out, what's going on here?
Well, I think the nature of what happened yesterday was, in fact, because they are and have been close. And I think they both ticked each other off yesterday. And that's what happens in politics when ambition, rears its head. Forever, they've had a relationship in which the demarcation was clear. Mayor Slay was the mayor. Mayor Slay was helping Sam Dotson's career, brought him over from the police to create a job as director of operations, moved him into police chief after local control, supported him through all of the unrest of the last couple of years. And I do know that as Chief Dotson has been talking about running for mayor, that he and the mayor have had talks behind the scenes. And the mayor talked about that when he announced that he wasn't running, that he didn't have a whole lot of, discussions with folks beforehand, but he talked to them, right before he made his decision or right afterwards. And so I'm quite positive that he and Chief Dotson have had conversations about the chief potentially running for mayor. And it seems to me that what happened yesterday was their discussions went public, that the mayor had been making it clear that he thought if Sam was going to run, he needed to resign. And Chief Dotson apparently decided that's just not going to happen. And so yesterday, when push comes to shove, they end up disagreeing with each other, and it looks like a big public row. I think they're probably as close as they ever were, but they got pretty angry with themselves yesterday because Chief Dotson made a decision that completely disagreed with Mayor Slay, and Mayor Slay went public with his criticism, and that's just something that is unusual for Mayor Slay, who likes to do things diplomatically behind the scenes when possible. It was almost like Jeff Rainford was back in the mayor's office, throwing bombs.
Right.
So, I think you have two men who have been pretty close over the last many years that when it came time for Sam to make his decision, he decided to go for it, and they got angry with each other.
All right, Tony Messenger, if you are a county clerk or a city clerk, you can't politic on your off time because those are part of the rules, right? You can't do politics. You have to stay nonpartisan on your off time. But yet the police chief can be all politics on his off time?
Well, all of the elected officials can be all politics on their off time. I mean, we're going to have a mayoral
he's not an elected
race.
official. He's an employee.
Well, that's true. He's an employee. That is a little bit different. I think the mayor is right that the chief should not keep his position, and I think that for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I think it's really bad politics for him to stay in his position. One of the big stories that has been a narrative in St. Louis over the last couple of years and will continue to be is that there is a violence problem. There is a murder problem. And I think some people overplay it when you look at the overall trends. We anecdotal short-term trends and make a big deal out of them. I'm a member of the media who does that sometimes. You take a big shooting downtown and you write a couple of columns about it, and, you're contributing to that perception. I get that. but that perception is real, that St. Louis has a violence problem. And if you're running for mayor, and you're the only one running for mayor who's in charge of that violence problem above anybody else, if Chief Dotson believes that he can try to place that on an alderman or a treasurer or a revenue collector that he's running against, he's completely mistaken and is lacking in he's politically naive. If he stays as police chief while he's running for mayor, he has no chance to be the mayor because every candidate will blame him for every shooting and every bit of violence that happens during the campaign, and it will be unescapable for him. And so I think that's just bad politics more than anything else. But when the city does have an issue, again, how bad is it is a matter of degree. But there's no doubt the city has an issue with violence, and a lot of people think it should be the police chief's first priority. There is no way you can convince a lot of voters that you're actually paying that much attention to it. And so then, even if you win, you come into office in a situation in which a lot of people in the city are angry at you. So I think the mayor's right that he should step down if he's going to run for mayor. But even if he does that, he's going to have to run on being the police chief in a violent city. And I just think that the timing of that is not good from a political optics standpoint.
Do you think Mayor Slay? I mean, how much of a rift are you hearing this is? I mean, are they still friends? Is Mayor Slay going to endorse somebody else? Is Mayor Slay going to use his resources to help somebody else get elected? Where does this go from here?
I'm not yet. I don't believe Mayor Slay has decided if he's going to endorse or if he's going to use his resources. I think he's thinking about that very seriously, and I don't think he knows. He has close connections in some way or shape to almost every candidate that's talking about running. And so I don't believe he's made that decision, and I'm not convinced he will. I think that he will be under intense pressure to ultimately endorse somebody, and I think that depends on how big the field gets and how some of those early folks campaign and whether or not the mayor finds them attractive. I think the mayor will make a decision based on what he thinks is ultimately best for the city. And so I think the early campaign will say a lot about who's going to get the mayor's support. I can tell you based on what happened yesterday, it's not going to be Chief Sam Dotson. So I think the mayor's right in terms of suggesting that it's bad form for the sitting police chief in a city that has some issues like this to be running for mayor. The other politicians are doing it too, but let's face it, they're politicians. I don't think anybody cares that the revenue collector or the treasurer or an alderman or two or the president of the board of aldermen are running for mayor while they're serving in their elected positions. Because let's face it, most of us don't think that they work full time in their elected positions anyway. I mean, that's just the way perception is. Police chief is a different job, and that's the way it is. And that's unfortunate for Sam in terms of making that decision to run for mayor while being the police chief. But I think politically he puts himself in an untenable position if he doesn't resign as the police chief to run for mayor. I think what he's probably going to do is now take the next month or two and see about, do I really have a chance? And if he thinks he does, he'll keep his job and he'll run. If he gets to the point where he thinks I can't win, then he'll drop the mayoral race and continue as police chief and try to fix whatever relationships he hurt yesterday.
Sam Dotson announced earlier yesterday that he's running for mayor and keeping his job. We had him a couple minutes ago, and now Tony Messenger from the Post-Dispatch. Read all about it, stltoday.com. Tony, thanks for checking in.
Good to talk to you. Have a great day.
You got to have a good weekend, too. 8:28, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tony Messenger, a rabble-rouser, and I know his wife loves him, so that's, right? we know that's important.
You call him a rabble-rouser.
Rabble-rouser. 8:28, Big 550.